Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Choice, Change and Action podcast. I'm taking over again. It's Paula Peralta, and I am here with the beautiful Simone Milasas, who you know as your host.
Thank you. Thank you, Paula, for hijacking the podcast. I am very grateful when you do, because I love doing podcasts with you. And I think a lot of people out there do too. From the last ones that we did on relationship, and if you haven't checked them out, go find them. We ended up doing 2 in a row, part 1, part 2, because there was just so many juicy questions and information. And we got a lot of really great feedback. So thank you for giving us the feedback, everybody. Don't forget, you can go to the Choice, Change and Action Instagram and slide into our DMs and give us some feedback. Tell us what you'd like to hear about. And I want to say thank you, Paula. Thank you for everything that you are and that you be.
It's my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Well, speaking of sliding into those DMs, we've had some people reach out with some new questions. So that's what today's show is going to be. It's going to be, you had questions for Simone, and I am the mouthpiece for all of you. Except today, instead of talking about relationships, we're going to talk about business. Simone, do you love business?
Business time. Yes, I do love business. I've always said I think I have a different blood running through my veins, because for me, it's so much fun. It's incredibly fun. And yeah, gosh, there's some, interesting things that show up. But for me, it's always like, how are you going to handle it? How are you going to move forward with your choices, with your business? And in saying that too, the last few days, I've been having this really weird thing going on, I feel like such an adult. Like, there's all these adult things showing up, and I'm like, and I was actually just driving home this morning thinking, sometimes I think it would be nice if someone just told me what I should do. And then I laughed because I was like, I would hate that if someone was telling me what to do. But I don't know, life just throws you some really curly things sometimes, and you're like, when did I become an adult? When do I have to make all these, all these choices? So yeah, but yes, I love business. The first book I ever wrote is called Joy of Business. If you haven't read it or listened to it, it's an Audible. I highly recommend getting it.
Absolutely. I know. I love what you said about the adulting thing, because sometimes I'm like, why do I have to make all the decisions? And then I realize it's because I have to make all the decisions.
It's your life. Yeah.
Spoiler alert. You're in control. You're in the driver's seat, everybody. Sorry about your luck. Yep. Amazing. Okay, so we had some really great questions come in that I think are super relevant to things that are happening all over the world and countries, and just kind of every questions I think will contribute to everyone. So the first question someone wrote is, help, Simone, at the end of every month, I have $0 in my bank account. How do I move beyond living month to month? And I'm really excited to see where we go with this, because I think this is common. It's common. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck. And so what would you say to someone who's stuck in that cycle, but also realizing that maybe there's another possibility? What's the tool or maybe the piece of advice that you'd give there?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to be grateful for yourself that you actually reached out and asked a question. Because if you are aware of what is going on, then you can change it. It's when you are not willing to be aware of anything, then you can't change it. So I'm going to say being honest with yourself is number one. So take a day, take a week, or I would say take a day, put a day aside for you and get a lot of your information, your financials, etc., and start to look at them. And okay, a couple of really basic things I would say with this is, if you have a credit card, your bank statement, etc., have a look at them and go line by line, and grab a glass of champagne or a cup of coffee or some sweet treats or something like that. Make it enjoyable for you, and go through it line by line and have a look and go, okay, did I actually require all of these expenses? Because a lot of the times we keep accumulating these expenses, and it's like, are they required? Now, I am definitely not someone to say cut back your expenses. Like, I know most accountants would do that. And my father, I'm incredibly grateful for him. He passed away, I think, 11 years ago now. But he used to say to me, look at all your expenses. Do you need them? And I say go line by line, like don't just glance, because when you glance, you tend to forget. So if you look at it and go, okay, what was this? What is this? Oh, that's that new handbag, or, that's my dentist or whatever. And it's like, look at it line by line. Did you actually need them? Do you require them? And if you do, great. And then what you need to have a look at is the money that's coming in and ask, okay, so now what else can I add to my life? What else can I add to my business? And get another job. It's like, ask to increase your revenue stream. You might do something that is, increasing your revenue stream by $50 a week, but that $50 is so going to contribute to a different financial reality. So one of the first things too I would start to look at is, and I think this is, I do it for myself all the time, have a look at your phone and look at all the subscriptions you have. How many subscriptions do you have on your phone that you've just got an app and gone, oh yeah, that's great. Oh yeah, that's great. And then you don't use them? Cancel your subscriptions. It's like, how many credit cards do you have? It's like, do you have, an unnecessary amount of credit cards? What if you could pay them off and then you have one or two? Like I have two credit cards. One is for business and one is for personal. And at the end of each month, I pay them off, but I use them to my advantage as well. They're all linked with a frequent flyers, so I get frequent flyer points and I use it to my advantage. But any of these things you can start to have a look at. And I'm not saying don't go buy that new handbag and just go to the dentist, because you far out. I mean, you got to live, right? You got to have fun. It's like, this is not about living the most boring life you've ever had. But it's like, but look at it and get familiar with it. And once you get familiar with it, it's like, then you can start to make some shifts and changes. I also highly recommend getting the second book that I wrote, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully. It's got some really amazing tools in it that will change so many different areas of how you look at money, because you've got to change the mindset.
Yeah, one of the other tools that I've heard you speak about, and it was from Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, was the first time I heard it, but the looking at the cost of creating your life. And that's exactly what you talk about, going through every single line item and really getting clear on what it costs to live your life. And even into this question of like, I'm month to month, paycheck to paycheck, and I don't know how to change it. Well, what's your next target? Like, what is it that you're actually aiming for? But that's the challenge that a lot of people run in, is that you don't actually have like motivation or a target to shoot for. And so you stay stuck in this like, endless loop of month to month, hand to mouth.
And can I add, I actually had a conversation with someone this morning about this, because everybody's like lifestyle and desire for how they live is different. Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. It's like what's important or what is fun or relevant to Paula is going to be different to me. It's like, there might be some things that are the same, but it's like, but what makes your life great? Like, start looking at that. Because I mean, for me, I just went away up the coast for 4 days to this place called Agnes Waters, and there's not much there, which is what I like. It's like, I travel so much and go to these big cities. So when I'm at home, I love going out into nature and I love hiking and all of that. So it's like, what does that require? Okay, good hiking shoes, by the way, because I've done bad hiking shoes and that's not pretty. But you know what I mean? Like, it's like, what makes your life great? And a really common theme, and I cannot tell you how many people I've had conversations with this about, is they go, oh, they've decided they'll be successful once they own a house. Wrong. No. And it's like, don't make a house this pinnacle of like, that's when I'm successful. I have spoken to so many people about that. It's like, if you can afford a house and if it brings you joy, then yeah, it's like, go buy a house. And it's like, look at, see a mortgage broker, talk to banks, etc., and see what that would take. But don't buy a house and then you're like, you're choking because you've got no money in the bank. And it's like, you've got to be able to afford to do that. And there are so many costs that come with a house that isn't just this one, here you go, here's this. Like, I remember at one stage we had, I've got this house that I have, 2-story house, right? And one stage it's really gross, but whatever. there was like rats in our wall down in the laundry. And I'm like, who do you call? You can't call the landlord. I am the landlord. I own this house. So it's like, what am I doing? And I actually spoke to one of my friends, and he's like, well, I love him. He lives on this big, huge land, and he's so in tune with nature and everything. And he said, well, first of all, ask, what are the rats doing there? Like, what are they looking for? And they usually like want water and all this sort of stuff. So, but I had to deal with that. So if you're going to do something like buy a house, it's like, be aware of all of those hidden costs that you don't really look at. So what is it that you desire to create as your life? Get, like, as Paula said, like, get clear on how much it costs to, look at all of your finances. And there's a whole lot of tools we have with that too. And what is it that's great for you? Like, what is it that brings you joy? And then start looking at that, like Paula said, like your next target. What is that? I mean, it might be a better pair of hiking shoes. It might be to get a house. It might be to, go to Bali. It might be, to buy a new red dress or something. It could be that. But whatever it is, if it brings you joy, that's yours. Don't let anyone take that away from you, and reach for that.
I love that. Okay, so you brought up a thing about generating more revenue, right? So once you look at your finances, like what's the, how much more money are you looking to create or earn? And one of the questions that someone had is, let me find it. So I am in a 9-to-5 job, but not earning enough money. Anything you can suggest? I hear about passive income, but have no idea how to start to create other revenue streams.
Okay, passive income is fucking bullshit. Okay? A Gesundheit.
Thank you. I think I was sneezing the bullshit away.
Bullshit.
I was just clearing the way. I was clearing the way for you.
I mean, people throw this word out there like, oh, I just want to create passive income. I'm sorry, you've done something. You've taken some action that allows that to be. Like, for example, if you go check out my website, ladies and gentlemen, SimoneMilasas.com / I think this is right, shop, right? Keep it simple, SHOP. And it's like, I have a whole lot of products on there. So, every month maybe we might have a sale or something like that, or there's products that sell. So every month I do sell products from there. So people go, oh, that's a passive income, but it's not. It's like there's still this constant flow to it. I mean, you're paying for a website. It's like you've already done those classes. So can you make money off something that you've created today in the future? Yes. But all the lies that you brought about what passive income is, when people go, I just want to make money whilst I sleep. It's like, and all the bullshit and all the pipe dreams that you're trying to, create that aren't true, where you destroy and uncreate it. Time's a godzillion, right and wrong, good and bad, POC and POD, all nine shorts, boys, provids, and beyonds. And that's the Access Consciousness Clearing Statement, which you can find out more on theclearingstatement.com. But if I look at, say, the books I have, right? I've got Joy of Business, which was Joy of Business, Getting Out of Debt Joyfully, and Relationship, Are You Sure You Want One? And I don't know how many years ago I wrote Joy of Business, but it was quite some time. And I get paid royalties every quarter, right? And now it's like, it's pretty decent, like the amount of royalties I get paid. It's translated into 16 languages. The actual publishing of the book cost me a bunch of money. I did not make money off that for quite some time. The publishing of it in languages has cost me even more. I'm actually, at the moment, I'm doing the Audible on a lot of the languages. That costs more than the actual translation of the book, and you get so little return for Audible. It's but for me, it gets the book out there, it gets the tools out there, so that matches the energy. I'm going to invest in that to get that out there, right? So I am getting a good return on the actual sales of hard copy books. Interesting enough, like people sort of seem to dismiss that, but the amount of hard copy books I sell, that's actually where I'm making my money right now. So there is places that you can make money in the future from what you create today, but also have a look at sorry, I know I'm going a little bit off topic, but going on another topic, but it's like, what matches the energy of what it is you'd like to create in the world too. So have a look at that. Okay, I'm going to go back to this question, because what is it you love to do? Like, a friend of mine started this really successful dog walking business because she loved dogs and she was walking dogs. And then as she had 2 dogs walking them, her neighbor said, hey, do you think I could pay you to walk my dog? And then she started walking lots of dogs. So you could walk dogs. I mean, if you like baking, it's like you could bake cookies and cakes and sell them. I know that sounds really simple and maybe mundane. You can make money from it. There's a friend of mine's kid. Well, I say kid, I think he's like 17 now. And he's just started this trade of being a mechanic, right? And, when you first start, you don't earn that much money. So he's also got this job, which I think is so adorable. And he's being a mentor for this 5-year-old boy who has a single mom and wants him to have a male figure in his life. So he goes and hangs out with this 5-year-old boy like 4 or 5 times a week just to be a man around him and hang out. He's getting paid for that. And I'm like, that's so cute. But he's getting paid for that. Like there's so many different things out there. If you've read my book, you would have heard this story many years ago when I was in Sydney at the Mardi Gras, and I wanted to go to all the parties and do all of that. It cost a small fortune to go to all the parties at Mardi Gras, and I didn't have any money. But I was determined I'm going to do this. So my friend and I went and bought, all this glitter, because glitter was big then, all this glitter and this gel and we went and got these little wholesale, plastic tubs, and we sat in my kitchen and we made up all of these little different colored like glitter tubs. And we dressed up really colorful, walked down Oxford Street in Sydney and had these big baskets around around ourselves, and we're yelling out, hugs for free, glitter for $5, hugs for free, glitter for $5. And we sold so much glitter and we made so much money, and we were able to go to all the parties, and we made a lot of new friends, and we got a lot of hugs, but we took some action. You've got to take the action. I mean, you could walk around and put yourself out there as somebody who goes and waters plants every week. There is so many simple things that you could do. And if you love plants, then you can probably make money from it. Like here's a really key piece. Whatever you think has no value is usually where you can make money.
Speaking of, another question that we had is that you have operated so many different businesses and facilitated so many entrepreneurs. What do you hear? What's like the biggest piece of advice that you would give to people in business?
Don't give up and don't quit, and know when to quit. And I'll expand on that a little bit. Is most people quit when they're just about to be successful because they've come across something that they've decided is too hard. And seriously, it could be like friggin' paperwork, or it could be registering your business or a license for something or anything. And it's like, don't let anything stop you. Like if you don't know how to do something, ask a friggin' question. Just because you have a business doesn't mean you have to know everything. It's like keep asking questions. It's like whatever it is. I mean, it could be a government agency. I mean, as governments go, they're like, it's like, we don't really have people running our countries at the moment that I think are being, stewards of the land and there for the people. And yet use this reality to your advantage. There are so many government institutions out there that will contribute to you. So for example, there's a one called Austrade in Australia, and they wanted to increase the trade, right? Because, we had a whole lot of things go on politically. It's like China stopped trading with Australia. So they wanted to increase the trade. They increased it by 3%, which is a lot. So basically, if you went and spoke to them, filled out 1 billion forms, you can always hire someone to do that and talk to them. They're willing to give grants to people to build their websites, to fly to other countries, to have meetings, to do all of this because they want to increase the trade. So ask, is there somebody else out there that I can talk to or somebody else that can contribute, to the growth here? Like there's always something else possible. So, but when you get to that thing of going, oh, I didn't think about this, like business isn't a fairy tale. It's actually a choice. So what have you got to choose to move forward and keep moving forward? Now, in saying that too, when I say know when to quit is know when it's done. And you may start a business and it's done. And it's like, if it's done and there's something else to move on to, then choose that too. So but being in question is just imperative.
You also brought something up really interesting about like if there's a part of the business that you don't want to do that might actually like create you quitting before you get ahead, you can hire someone.
Oh my God.
And
What did you say, Paula?
you can hire someone.
Woo!
And I think I actually love that. And I'd love for you to maybe dive a little bit more into that because so often, especially I would say like new entrepreneurs who are like maybe money's tight and they're like, how am I supposed to hire someone to do this? Like, I don't even have money to, pay myself or pay my own bills. Like, can you talk a little bit about that and about like, how do you navigate finding
Yeah.
someone to help you, even if you're balling on a budget?
Yeah. Don't make it about money. And I know that
Mm,
that seems strange, but you're like, what do you mean don't make it about money? I mean,
yeah.
Paula, one of your amazing skills is hair, right? You're a
Mhm.
hairstylist, colorist, and it's like, I mean, you do a whole lot of different things out there. So as an example, if that was you and you're opening up a hair salon or working, and it's like, and you go, I really can't afford to pay right now, do their hair.
Mhm.
Do like if you're offering a service, it's like you could also offer them the service. Like my father, it wasn't a chartered accountant, and many years ago, he was from Lithuania, so he had a really strong accent. Studied, got himself a degree here in Australia, and he didn't really have any clients, right? So he literally walked the streets talking to people, and he came across two different artists, and they were not famous, they were not well known, they weren't successful, they didn't have the money to pay him to do their books, right? But they also knew that they had to start looking at that. And they said, we can pay you in artwork. So Dad said, yes, he did. He liked their artwork. And now it's like the artwork is worth a decent amount of money. But he was willing to receive the artwork in exchange for being their accountant. And it's like, so if you don't make it about the money, do you have something else that you could exchange to begin with? And then the second part is if you are earning a certain amount of money too, you could always say to people, hey, what if I pay you a percentage of what I earn, right? And the common theme I see, Paula, is people get really stuck on, oh, now I've got all this responsibility. I've got all this staff. I've got this responsibility. It's like, no, it goes both ways. It's like, what
Mhm.
if you actually said to them, hey, I've just hired you guys, like you've hired 3 staff, right? To do all the stuff that you don't particularly like doing or you're not great at. So you've hired people, hire up, hire up, hire up. Do not hire down, hire up. If you want to hire someone to do your bookwork because you hate it, hire someone who is better than you. Okay, that is a very key element here. So when you hire up, but you say to all these people, hey, this is where I'm at. This is where the business is at. Can you help me create this? Can you help me increase the revenue streams? As this increases, your money can increase too. So put it on them too. It doesn't just become your responsibility to be making all the money to now pay for them. It's like create it as a different, I want to say, a different relationship that can be something that we would nickname a creationship. You work together.
I love that. Okay, that's really good. I mean, we could probably stop there, but let's do one more question.
Okay.
um, so you did mention we've talked a lot about finances and business, and one of the questions that we got quite a bit was about investments. And really commonly, like how do you bounce back from a quote unquote bad investment? So you invested a certain amount of money, you lost it, and now you're like, oh,
Dios
terrible.
mío, Dios
Yes,
mío.
yeah.
Ah.
Like, talk a little bit about that, about investing, bad
Yeah.
investing.
What awareness did you gain from it?
Mm,
Number one question, my favorite question. Number two, rookie mistake. Never invest in anything that you're not willing to lose the money.
mm,
And I can tell you, if you are listening to this and you have invested money and you are not willing to lose it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And you probably will never do that again. I was just at my beautician's this morning, and she said to me, you know what? She said, you're probably one of my clients that has the most things going on. She said, you've just got your fingers in so many different pies. And we were talking about it, and I went, for me, it's just normal. Like, I don't look at my life and go, oh my God, I'm so unique and I'm so whatever. It's like, because I have an antique shop, Antiques and Possibilities, just below her, right? So I have antique shops. My main business, of course, is is facilitating with access consciousness. And then, I've got the books, and I've got 3 stock portfolios. I've got real estate investment. It's like I buy and sell jewelry as well, and there's lots of different things going on, and I'm always open for other possibilities, like what else is available. And she said to me about the trading, and she said, I don't know anything about it. She said, I will read about it, but I just go, I don't know if I have that $1,000 to start. And I said, okay, you know how much I started with? $100. And I didn't tell anyone because I was like embarrassed. I thought, you must have, thousands of dollars to invest if you're on the stock market, and all of a sudden you must speak like this, and you're investing in the stock market, you have to have thousands of dollars. And it's not true. I started with $100, and I said to her, every time I had a spare $50, $100, I would put it into that account, and I would just buy a few more shares. And, did I lose some? Absolutely. But I've made way more than I've lost. It's like way more than I've lost. But I enjoy it. I enjoy the stock market. So find something that you enjoy and like invest in that, but be willing to lose it all. Like at the moment, the stock market is really shit. So if I look at my stock portfolios, I'm like, they're really low. And I see people do this thing of going, Dios mío, the stock market, da, da, da. And I'm like, for me, I haven't lost anything until I've sold them. And even then, right, I would sell them if those stocks weren't going to go back up, the ones I have, I would sell them at a point where I have a loss, right, which is called like so that loss can go against something else where I make God, I've just completely forgotten the word. I don't know if you guys have it in America. The tax, Jesus, so interesting. Anyway, I've just completely forgotten it. But it's because you make a loss there, right? So say hypothetically you make $50,000 loss there. If I sold real estate, capital gains, that's what I'm looking at, capital gains, capital loss. And I sell real estate and I've got capital gains, that loss goes against the gains. So then you can play in the tax world of when and how you choose things. But that's a much bigger game that you can play with yourself and get really creative. But for now, it's like if you're going to invest in something, don't invest every penny you have in something that you leave yourself dry. Like I've got some friends who invested a lot of money in Bitcoin, and basically their point of view was, this is going to make us multimillionaires. They've lost it all. What awareness did you gain? Don't judge yourself. What awareness did you gain?
I love that. And there was one other question actually that I think is kind of in this, it's not the same question, but it has a similar energy, I think, where a lot of people were talking about like the recession, right? So rates are increasing and, the dollar's not as strong or whatever the form of currency is. And so many of the questions are like, how do you survive a recession? And will you speak to that a little bit? Because to me, I think it's similar to what you just said about the stock market. Like it's down, but if it's down, then that means it's going to change. It's going to change even more, right? If it's changed up to this point, like there's more change there. But I think you speak to that really beautifully. So would you address that?
Yeah, and I also love what you just said. There's more change there. There's more change there, and you've got to look at that. Because what future do you want to create? And you create your future by your choices. So if you do that thing of going, oh my God, Dios mío, all of that, and then you just sort of stand in your tracks rather than going, okay, so what is happening around me? Is this affecting me? Because that's a really key thing. I see, I know it's different in America to Australia to the rest of the world, and yet it's a lot similar as well. Like in the news in Australia, we get how unstable America is because currencies have predominantly been against the US dollar, right? And so now the US dollar is, everyone's going, oh my God, what are we going to do now? It's going to be, so it's like fed to us how unstable, like it's almost like the US is so unstable and doesn't have our back. And so what are we going to do now? Like the little redheaded stepchild over here, Australia, it's like, what are we going to be relying on? And it's so interesting how the media and governments and politicians, etc., will play this out so that you start thinking that everything is affecting you. I want to ask you, is it? Is it actually affecting you? Like I have quite a few different loans with real estate that I have, like mortgages, different mortgages, and the interest rates have gone up. They've gone up 6 times in the past 8 months in Australia. But I'm okay. And the rate that I'm paying, the interest that I'm paying on these loans is a tax deduction. So it's either going, to pay taxes, or it's going as a tax deduction. So it is increasing. And I've done my research and I've spoken to different people. Can I predict it? No, but you can look at it and go, okay, can I handle this? And I'm like, yeah, I can. And if not, can I sell something? Sure. Do I need to? No. They're all questions, and I'm not getting the answer from looking for a conclusion. I'm asking those questions to look at what we would call like this yes-no universe. So when I ask those questions, I get like a yes or no. And it's like, and what if you followed the energy, with that, and see what is, what's applicable to you. I mean, owning antique shops is really interesting, antiques and jewels, because everyone goes, oh my God, people aren't going to buy that because there's a recession and etc. But we just had someone come in the other day and buy like a $15,000 ring. It's like there are people with money. What if you were choosing to be one of those people with money, and how do you appeal to them? Or what is it that you can choose? There's always another choice available. And if you look at history, I just watched this. I would recommend it. It's called Transatlantic on Netflix, and it's set in Marseille, France, in during World War II, and about how this one actual U.S. government agency or whatever, and how they got so many of the Jews out of there and into America, including Marc Chagall, like, one of the famous artists. Like they were very, and of course America was very keen to get all of the Europe, great artists and writers and everything into their country. I mean, I think Marc Chagall went and lived in New York for 7 years, and then he went back to France afterwards. But it's so interesting to watch this and see how some of them are trying to function from what was. And there's this one line in it, and the guy says, the world has changed. There's different rules now. And this other character wants to function from the old rules. And he's like, it doesn't exist anymore. Like, how are you going to be? And there's this whole revolutionary thing that comes up as well throughout the series. And it's like, we have to be strong and ask for what it is that we desire. Like, don't sit back and take it. And I'm not saying, to me, it's like getting a picket and walking down and doing anything isn't actually the greatest choice. It's like, but what are you going to choose to be in this world? So if there's quote unquote a recession and that's what's being told, what are you going to choose to be in all of that?
I love that. And I really think it's like, this is kind of a full circle moment, because we started off the podcast talking about like, I can't make the ends meet, and, there's too much month left at the end of the money. And now it's like this question that we're kind of ending with, I think applies to that as well. Like, what is your reality? Like, what's my reality? And what is it that I'd like to create? And if it is one that, like, sure, I can include, inflation or a recession or stock markets crashing or rising or whatever that is. And it's like, and what if I'm choosing my reality to be a reality of ease with money, of joy with money? And how, because then it becomes, okay, cool. So in the face of recession, like, how can I choose joy with money? In the face of, a stock market crash or losing money on a quote unquote bad investment, like, what can I choose and what's actually available to me? And I love this conversation. I love that it was like business and money, this conversation, because I think no matter what situation we're in, there's conversations here.
I was going to say, what can you choose? Have sex. Something that's joyful for you. You know what I mean? It's like choose the joy and choose the fun and choose what works for you. And it's interesting because as we're talking to Paula, it's like you could say that there's like a serious tone about this podcast, but what if it's not serious? What if it's relaxation?
Yeah.
Because no matter what comes at you, it's like, I mean, I've been reading this thing the other day, and they say, when in a shark attack, or a shark's swimming towards you, I should say, not a shark attack. It's like Jaws didn't do us any favors. I think everyone thinks that sharks just attack. Sometimes they just swim and they're inquisitive to find out what you are, But the golden rule is like, don't swim away, because then you become something they chase. what if you faced it on head on? And I mean, there's so many, videos and stuff like that. And, of people when they just like touching a shark on the nose and pushing it down. And I've got a lot of friends who are free divers, and the way they'll talk about that and swimming with sharks too. And just pushing the shark down. It's like, here you go, you swim over there. And it's like, well, what if we took everything like that head on from this relaxation? It's like, hey, how you doing, Recession? Okay, I gotcha. What if you're going to go over there? I'm going to steer you over there because I'm moving forward and I'm choosing something different.
That is so epic. And on that note, that's the Choice, Change, and Action podcast, ladies and gentlemen, with Simone Milasas. So thank you so much for joining us. Simone, you're brilliant. Thank you for you.
So are you, Paula. I adore you, lady. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe. You'll get show notes. It's like tell your friends, share it all around, and follow us on Instagram, okay? On my Instagram, Simone Milasas, and also on the Choice, Change, and Action Instagram too. So thank you so much for being here. Oh, and I've got a Business Done Different class happening too. It's live in Marseille, France, but you can also come online too. And that's towards the end of June. So check it out. It will be in the show notes. If this is of interest to you, more business time. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change, and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes. And lastly, have way too much fun today.